Welcome to NWA Connie Corso's podcast, where we talk all things dogs.
Welcome back to another show with NWA Connie Corso. This is another collaboration with my dear brother Roman Price, Integrity Boerboel in the house. And
hello.
We have, hey, what's up, brother? And we have a repeat guest. Roman, I'll let you do the duties of introducing this young man next to you here.
This young man here, Mr. Johan Swart of Linjo Boerboels out of South Africa. A wealth of knowledge, several generations of knowledge of information on the Boerboel breed, how to maintain the health and integrity of a true, authentic Boerboel, true working dogs as they were designed to be, from the start, the true farm and family protectors that they are, that with that awesome temperament that makes them so desirable, not that big slobby catfish of a dog, catfish head dog, or that big sloppy mouth dog, drooling everywhere, and with one that's properly proportioned that can jump in and out of trucks or jump over fences and stuff like that, that had no, he didn't have any boundaries other than you calling him back.
Yeah.
A true Boerboel.
Yes, sir. Mr. Johan,
Mr. Johan Swart is the man that produces it.
Yes, how are you, sir?
Sorry, this sounds a little bit bad.
I said, how are you this morning?
I am very good. Yeah, it's not morning. It's evening now. But for you, good morning, gentlemen. I'm very honored to be back on your program. After the last little debacle we went through, I thought, okay, that one didn't go down well. What happened at the last podcast that we had, we were interrupted by a repeated phone call that kept on coming in, and eventually I live in Mozambique. I'm originally from South Africa, but I now live in Mozambique, which is a very poor country. And at this time, just following our elections, it's also a little bit of a risky place. I won't say it's dangerous. The people here are very calm, etc. But we've got disputed elections and strikes starting on Monday and things. And what happened is one of my guests, I do own a small farm stay business on my coffee farm. And what happened is one of my guests' car broke down and he was stuck on the road and he could not get here, and he was getting desperate, and he's got a little bit of a hypochondriac wife. So she didn't make things easier for him. So I really had to go and rush out and get the guy in, and it was an adventurous evening. So I thank you for accepting my apologies and for accepting the facts that I face here.
Hey, no problem, man. We understand. We definitely understand. Hey, well, I want to start off this way. I don't want to say.
Sorry, guys. I had a dog jump the fence.
Oh no, you're good. I don't want to say I underestimated you, but I don't think I did the best due diligence on my research with you. Man, I went to Mr. Johan's YouTube channel, and oh my God. I was just like, man, I could do multiple shows with him. I mean, it was hard to know where to start with him, but and you also have a book, am I right?
I've written 2 books about the Boerboel, and I'm busy on a 3rd book at the moment. I decided to change a bit of stance with the books. The first book basically emerged because I did not believe where people were telling me where the breed was coming from. We covered that in your previous podcast, where I said, man, I was told stories about where this breed was coming from and who created it, and none of it made sense. When I really started researching it, it turned out that nobody's researched it before, and that most of the stories were not true. So I then published a book on the Boerboel, and that was my first book that I wrote. and that was on the origins and the history of the breed, because it was just never done before. And that was an interesting book to write, because I really had to go into multiple sources. And eventually the book turned out to be about a 134-page book, purely focusing on the breed. Nothing to do on the breed standard, nothing. It says, where does this dog come from? And what was its history? How did it go through the wars with the people? How did it go through periods of poverty? How did it end up where it is now? So that was the first book I wrote. Then I got pushed to start publishing a second book. For many years, I was a trainer. I trained many Boerboel appraisers and breeders. I've never been shy with information. If I know something about the breed and I keep it to myself, it does nothing for the benefit of the breed.
Yes, sir.
So I've always been sharing. Ever since I was trained as an appraiser, I think I started my first training session for the other guys that did not pass the exam. And we started working together to try and get them up to speed and to get them through. Now, I ran into a bit of difficulty with the second book, because I wanted to come up with a common breed standard for the breed. And I really did a lot of research. Now, how do you write a common breed standard if you already have 20, 30 breed standards out there? Because every country, every continent have their own idea of what the breed should look like. And nobody has the balls to sit down and say, this is the breed standard. But I soon realized that to call it a breed standard would be fighting against thunder. It really won't work. Because you will be telling something that so many other places are telling and claiming to be correct. And I realized that I had to step away from calling it a breed standard, and for the first time go right back to the original standard for the breed, the very first breed standard, and start comparing it item by item by item to the progression that it went through and where it ended up in modern breed standards. And then take that simple little item and refer it right back to science and see what was the reason for this. Was there a reason for it to deviate, or was it pure breeder fancy? And that brought me to writing a massive book. It's an over 300-page book. I have not published it in hard copy at all. It's all on the breed identity of the book. We've got to realize that overarching over all the breed standards that the Italians might have, and the Americans might have, and the British might have, and the Russians might have, somewhere for every breed, there's a breed identity. If you don't draw that line and create that breed identity, nobody will ever know how far they have drifted from the original. Okay. Because take, for instance, in your breed, in Canary Islands, there should be somewhere, there must be a definitive document that even if you don't agree with it and you have a deviation of it, the deviation can be identified. If there is no line drawn in the sand, right, nobody can say yours is even a deviation, because there's nothing to measure it against. So that was a massive work. I used the material that I used in my training of appraisers and breeders over many years, and the pictures that I used and collected over many years. And I wrote this book, and both of my books are published on our ebooks. It's the easiest. You know, I live in Southern Africa and in Mozambique. Now, guys, I don't know if you understand what that means. Mozambique has 37% of the population suffering chronic malnutrition. Right. We have 65% of the people living on less than $2 a day. Right. This is a poor country. We have no postal
Sync
service.
has detected a new device.
So
For your safety, please
how
stay
do
on.
how do I get my
This
books,
device
for
does not
instance,
support
into
playing
America?
protected content through Sync using USB.
Hold on
I'm
one
sorry,
second.
guys. Please forgive
Okay.
me.
Yeah. Okay.
No
Sorry.
problem. Okay, no problem. No sweat. I can continue. Right. So that's the situation. How do I get hard copy books there? How do I get hard copy books to Russia? How do I and postal fees from here? Man, we don't have a UPS that we can quickly run to and say, and I'm quickly going to pick up a parcel. Or Google that comes in with a drone and drops it on my front lawn. Nah, man. Yeah, when we see a drone, we run away. Right?
Yeah.
We're more used to elephants and hippos and things like that than drones. Right. This is a different place. So for me to publish the books and to get the information out there was another challenge. It's one thing getting the information together, one thing getting it professional format, writing it well, making sure you don't cross-reference different things and don't say things that are not exact. You know, one of the most difficult things is to write a book like that and not rely on rumor.
Yeah.
If you rely on a story that you heard, it's not valid. You've got to go back to the facts, and only then can you publish something that's really worthwhile. And that's what I try to do. The new book that I'm writing is just simple. I'm going to make shorter books, little books, information booklets, and also put them on ebooks and let them rip. The new one I'm writing is just on the male dog, the Boerboel male. And it covers its temperament, its mobility, its conformation, lots of things in there, but it's more focused on the male and the reproductive cycle and the role that the male dog plays in that. I'm not a veterinarian. So for me, lots of the research is difficult. And there might be people that are coming up and saying, there are other things, you missed this, or you haven't seen this research. Yes, I'll take that risk. And that's what makes it easy with an ebook. I can go and I can amend some of the information and just put it out again. So yes, that's where I am with the books. All my books are available on lulu.com, lulu.com. It's very simple. It's an ebook reseller and publisher. You simply go and in the search bar, enter the word Boerboel under books for sale, and there my books pop up. Simple as that.
What's the name of your YouTube channel again?
Oh, shoot. I think it's Boerboel Academy. Yes,
Boerboel Academy.
Boerboel Academy.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I want you guys to hear that and check that out, because I like channels that don't we already cover a lot of the same subjects, but if you can find some channels that go deeper. He was going into the tail, the swayback. I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
I really like that part. Hey, what kind of challenges you're advocating for one breed standard? What kind of challenges have you faced going for that?
Ego.
Mm-hmm.
Ego. The ego of the organizations, their personal perception of their value and their knowledge base and their intelligence. Egomaniacs across the world. And unfortunately, they like leadership positions. So you guys see that a lot. We see exactly the same thing in the dog world. Many of the people who step forward and who start to run organizations do so because it's a position of advantage. It's a position of power. Whilst it should be the other way around. It should be a position of absorption. It should be a position of learning. It should be a position of opening the doors to hear what other has to say. So if anybody from outside the organization comes and writes something that says, you know what, you removed this thing from your breed standard, but you don't know what you did, you caused the following chain reaction. It's very hard to accept it, because the person who proposed it or the breeder who could not meet that criteria anymore is most definitely going to oppose you. And remember, what we are facing in the dog world is not breed organizations. I wish we could have breed organizations, but we have breeder organizations. The breed can't speak for itself. So it's always the breeders that purport to represent the breed.
Mhm.
But what do they purport? Their own interest. Right? If I'm a breeder and a commercial breeder and I make my living and my livelihood is from breeding these dogs, I will propose things that suit me.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Hold on, I'm trying to find my question. You mentioned a need for an original or core breed identity.
Yes.
Right down a little bit. Sorry. What is the reference point to that in establishing that universal breed identity?
Okay. Fortunately, in the Boerboel breed, we had an original breed standard. It was poorly written by a group of guys who had best intention, but not always the best vocabulary, right? Or the best knowledge of the descriptor uses, for instance, the descriptors of certain features, etc., in the dogs that is used by the FCI, that are used by professional evaluators nowadays. You know, if you told these old farmers that were writing the Boerboel breed standard, the initial breed standard, to look at the slope of the croup, they will tell you the slope of the what? Right, the dog had a hanging ass or not? Right, it was that was basically the way that they saw things. So it was written in layman's language, and some things were omitted from it. Science also came in and showed us that there were some places where they were wrong. Some assumptions that they made were not 100%, but we had a baseline, and that's the baseline from which I started working. The document was not old. It was only written in 1987. So the Boerboel was left alone. It was not really interfered with by breeders for many, many years. It's only very recently that this dog breed started coming under the influence of breeders.
Right.
Gotcha. Roman, you got anything before I keep doing?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So let me see. So when it comes to I'm having an internet connection. Hold on a minute. So sorry. When it comes to this dog, before we got on, you mentioned that some of the basis of the Boerboel works across all breeds, and I remember you was talking about the Canary Islands. And I didn't know the Canary Islands had a big population of dogs, because we know that the Presser is a recent breed, the Corso is a recent breed, and but the Presser it derived directly from the Canary Islands. And is there any influence or relation to the Boerboel with that dog?
Aha, very interesting question. And that was part of the research in the original book. Because when I came across a possible source of the dogs being picked up from the Canary Islands, which in those days were called Ilha de Caniche, the dog islands, and brought along the African coasts on the Portuguese sailing ships, I had to find out, but where are these dogs now? What happened to them? Are they really the dogs of the Canary Islands? Are these just Canary Island dogs that have just now find themselves in Africa, and we've got to go and say sorry to those guys? Listen, we wrote a breed standard in error. Our dogs are actually dogs of the Canary Islands. Then I found out that when the Portuguese started going to the Canary Islands and exploring the coast of Africa, right, it was in the late 1400s and 1500s, right? In those days, the Canary Islands, and they still do, belong to the Spanish king. And the Spanish king used them as a refreshment station. Now, in the days of sailing ships, refreshment stations were very important because that's where you went to get new salted meat to put on your ship, to find fresh water to put on your ship, to restock all your supplies on your ship to continue on the rest of your journey. Now, the Spanish king made a big investment and he sent a lot of livestock to the Canary Islands. But the Canary Islands had these big wild mastiffs. Right? Some of them were tamed. We read reports that the schoolmaster was allowed to keep his dog and the butcher was allowed to keep a dog, etc. So yes, some of them were domesticated, but not all of them. And especially these dogs that lived out in the wild started causing damage to the investment of the king. So the king issued an edict. The edict was in 1530 something, right? Many years ago. And he said, kill all the dogs, right? Exterminate those dogs on the islands. By that time, a lot of these dogs have left already on the Portuguese ships. And they were being seeded all along the African coast as these ships were moving around, trying to get to the spice route, find a new route to the east to go and buy spices. So what happened is the original dogs, the original Canary Island breed was wiped out. 1 or 2 dogs remained. They were not a viable population. What we see now as the Presa Canario, and there's a couple of names that they are being called, are resurrected dog breeds. And you can go into the history of those breeds and go and read it, and it's confirmed. They are resurrected dog breeds. And the Boerboel was not used in the resurrection of any of those breeds.
Gotcha.
Because they also did not draw the parallel that some of our dogs might have gone down the African coast and are still surviving in Southern Africa, in countries like Angola, Namibia, South Africa, Mozambique. There were still dogs there. They wouldn't have drawn that connection. Right? So they resurrected the breed as well as they could, and they tried to create a breed that looked like the original. And they were pretty successful. If you look at the dogs that they have nowadays, lots of them are, they look like smallish Boerboels. Right? They're at the same, they even in their first breed standards repeated the colors of the original breed. So if you go back to the breed standards followed for the Presa Canario, for instance, you'll see in their original breed standards, what were the original colors of the original breed? And they tried to follow that as well. So that was the baseline that we could work from.
Got you. Let me double back on something you was talking about in the standard. I hear sometimes judges refer to there being different types or styles within a breed standard. Do you believe that, or do you believe every place there might be a variation of the same breed?
Look, breed standards are never creates a cookie cutter. Okay. You can't go and replicate 100% exact clones.
Right.
But there shouldn't be so much variation that you can say, listen, I've got a Mastiff type Boerboel, or I've got a Terrier type Boerboel. Terriers and Mastiffs are worlds apart, right? Or I have a Houndy type, right? Yes, you will get dogs that have a slightly more houndy look. You will get dogs that have a slightly more of this look or that look. But they should all fall within the same parameters. It's no use. Your parameters are so loose that you can have 2 dogs of the same breed that you can't even recognize as being of the same breed.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something I see in my breed. The Cane Corso is no parts of his head should be really round, but I see a lot of Bull Mastiff heads and things in it. So that was a question. Yeah.
That's something that bothers me as well with the Cane Corsas that I see in Southern Africa, is the rounded heads. Look, I study a lot of the other breed standards, of the other Mastiff types. I'm soon going to Madagascar to go and appraise and train the guys there about their Boerboels. And they have a lot of other Mastiff types. And they asked me to do an open show. And in order to do an open show of all the Mastiff types or breeds that are present on the island, I don't even know what the hell is going to come up that day. I had to read up on every breed that I could imagine would be there. Right. And if I'm not sure, because otherwise I'm walking into a ring there and I'm supposed to be judging a show, but I'm judging Cane Corsas based on Boerboel standard, or I'm judging Great Danes based on Cane Corsa standards. It's not on. You have to know the standards for each breed, and as those dogs come in, yes, you select on mobility, you select on structure, etc. But eventually, you've got to recognize as well, is that dog a good example of that specific breed? Not is that a good Mastiff, right? It is that a good Great Dane? Is that a good Bull Mastiff? Is that a good Cane Corsa? Is that a good Boerboel? And that takes, man, it takes a lot of studying, and it takes a lot of introspection to realize, can I do it? I was hesitant to do it. And lots of other people would just jump and say, oh, yeah, no, I've seen those dogs, I'll do it. No, to do it professionally takes a lot of work.
Yeah. You mentioned appraisals. A lot of us we don't have that in our breeds.
Yes.
What is the appraisal? What is it?
Okay.
What is it for? And all that good stuff.
Okay. Let me give you a background on that, and that's a very valid question, because that's something that was developed basically for the Boerboel breed. Because the breed was found on many farms in rural areas, in remote areas, somehow the dogs had to be evaluated. You have to say this dog is good enough to represent the Boerboel breed. You can continue breeding with it. We'll register it as a first generation dog in the Boerboel breed, and we can continue. Now that process continued, and it became a whole system of grading dogs. Now the system also created horrible problems, because humans like to compete with each other. And what soon happened is, one guy would say, my dog got 87, and the other guy said, my dog only got 82. So the guy with the female, with the bitch that needs to be covered, goes and uses the dog with the 87. While in actual fact, it was judged by two different people in an appraisal system that is not monitored for quality externally, right? So there's individuals that go out and they give a score to a dog. Yes, the score is based on its angulation, on its structure, on the shape of its head, on all conformational aspects. but it's not vetted centrally. And that's the biggest problem that it created a hell of a big competition, first of all, which is a good thing and not a good thing, right? Because now everybody strives to get a 90% dog, but that dog is miles away from 10% from perfect, right? It was just simply on the day the scores worked out that that dog got a 90%, and suddenly it's a better dog than a dog that got 82. The second big problem that this appraisal system created, or that was brought in by it, and that's something I want to advocate internationally, is the fact that it only looked at the conformation of the dog. It was like a show. You looked at the conformation of the dog and you give it a score. A score for its lips, a score for its teeth, a score for its eyes, and eventually it works out on the score. But they never looked at the temperament. And one of the first things that Roman said today was the temperament is what these dogs were known for. Until today, the major Boerboel organizations don't have a standardized temperament test to which they can attach a score. The ATTS that you guys have in America, the American Temperament Test Society, does a brilliant job. I attended some of their appraisals of Boerboels and temperament evaluations 15 years ago. But that has not been accepted in South Africa.
Oh, wow.
No, here they say, no, temperament is, we'll leave it for later. We'll address it one day. Right.
Yeah.
The next thing is mobility. Yes, mobility is to some extent evaluated as an appraised in an appraisal system, right? But there's no official mobility test. There's no standard. The next thing is genetics. And I think now we're talking deep stuff into dog breeds. What genes are in your breed and which ones are not? Does your breed, for instance, have the Merle gene in it? Is it acceptable or not? If it isn't, it should be written out in your standard. And somewhere somebody's got to give an evaluation of this animal that you want to use for breeding based on its genetics and its health tests. Right. So that's the full suite of factors that should be addressed when you're looking at the quality of a dog. Not just the shape of its head and if its feet are pointing straight forward and has it got a pink tongue or a black tongue. Right. No. Equally important is its temperament, its mobility, its genetics, its health. Right. Those are factors that can't be overlooked anymore because that's what constitutes the quality of an animal.
Right. I don't know which way I want to go with this. I got two things on my mind, but let me stay on this because I thought it was so interesting when I saw that video. This probably can help a lot of breeds because I hear people saying, oh, swayback is, but you had a video where you explained about the swayback and really what was behind it, problems that caused it. Could you just briefly go over that and kind of cover the swayback in dogs?
I know by training, I'm a business analyst and a scientist, so I'm used to looking at things from a little bit of an odd angle at times. And if you look at, for instance, a dog with a swayback, you've got to look at mechanics and decide when would something hang. The swayback is simply a dog's back that hangs like that. Now, when would the bridge sag? Right? Now, a bridge would sag when the distance between the two posts, the supports, are too far apart. Right? So if you make your dog too long, it's going to sag in the middle. It's pure mechanics, right? It's structural engineering you're looking at here, right? It's going to sag in the middle if you increase that distance. Now, the Boerboel has, for instance, a specific ratio of height to length of the body, right? And that's ignored. Nowadays, they breed these long dogs, and they wonder why the hell these dogs sag in the middle. They sag in the middle because they're too bloody long, right? The second thing is the structure that you put in between those two supports is not solid enough, right? In other words, you're not using enough steel and concrete in there. Now, with a dog, what supports the back? What supports the spine of the dog? It's only the girth of the spinal column, right? The girth of the spinal column and the muscles that surround and carry it. Think of it as the steel and the cables. That supports the bridge. If you have that in inadequate supply, your back's going to sag, right? Your bridge is going to sag. And so for me, it's logical. Doesn't matter which dog breed I'm looking at. If I see a sway back, I sort of know what causes it, right? The third thing that you must look at on the bridge, same analogy. We use the same parable here, right? Is how much weight are you putting on the bridge?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you take that bridge and you you add 50 semis onto the bridge, it's going to sag. Right. Now look at the shape of the chests of the dogs with the sagging backs. Most of them, the chests are excessively deep. They're excessively wide. They carry too much volume. You're loading too much weight on the span of the bridge. So those are my basic conclusions. And that's what I will look at in any breed when I see that.
right. Gotcha. What's a, in a lot of breeding programs across all dogs, what's your thoughts on breeders who try to just beef up females so much to more they look like males? What is your thoughts on that?
It's wrong. It's wrong for a couple of different reasons. For instance, fortunately, in my breed, the Boerboel, from the first breed standard, it said that the dogs must clearly be sexually distinguishable. It's called sexual dimorphism.
Yeah.
So your female dog should look feminine, your male dog should look male. When the dog comes in the ring, I normally turn my back towards where the guys are coming in with the dogs. And when I turn around with my clipboard in my hand to look at the dog, my first question is male or female, just at the glance. And then I look down at the paper. And if it looked like a male to me and I see, but it's a female, I immediately score it down. Right. Why? It's good to have in some competitions, the butch ladies win. Right. And in the dog breeding area, the people seem to like that too. Right. Those dogs really got to be beefed up and look like male bodybuilders, right?
Yeah.
What does that interfere with? If you look at the reproduction by those dogs, it's statistically much lower than your feminine appearing female dogs. Your feminine appearing dogs carry female hormones. Right. Your male appearing dogs carry male hormones. Right. And if you have too high a level of male hormones, your reproduction in the female goes down until it becomes zero.
Right.
So that's the base reason for that.
Yeah.
Also they they're it's more difficult for them to properly care and nurture their puppies. It's like a bull in a china shop when they moving around trying to nurse puppies. You know what I'm saying? They lose more puppies. It's difficult for them to carry them first of all, but then to nurse them to and wean to their weaned is more difficult.
Maternal instincts are linked very closely to the presence of female hormone. Right. So if your female hormone is in lesser presence, your maternal instincts will be lower. Milk production is linked to the presence of female hormones.
There we go. Yep.
Right. Right. So there are everything in the breeding process is on the female side of the dogs is linked to the female hormone. To get a proper LH spike, right? When you know your breeding is at the most ultimate moment to be done, right? You need female hormones at a certain level. If you don't have those hormones at that level, you don't reach the spike. So there are so many things where it's important to know that my dog is a proper dog carrying a high level of female hormones, and then I can breed with her. Not she's going to win shows and I won't ever get a puppy out of her.
Right. I don't know why people in general don't think that just because she's feminine, she won't make awesome males that'll come out behind her just off her feminine qualities. I don't get it, but yeah. How important is the female to a dog breeding program in your wisdom?
In my opinion, and it's not my opinion, it's science, the female contributes 50% of the genes. The male contributes 50% of the genes. The only time we have an overshadowing of the genetic contribution to the pool, and the pool is the puppies that come out. The only time when you have an overshadowing of the one genetic contribution by the other genetic contribution is when you have serious inbreeding on the one side. So inbreeding can cause you to carry over traits more successfully. And with all the risks, etc., associated with it.
Yeah.
But that is the only time when the female, for instance, if you have a female that's hardly got any inbreeding coefficient, and you use a male on her, which is a 50-60% inbred animal, it's going to carry a lot of the traits of that male dog, right? But you must realize that it comes with lower fertility, shortened lifespan, etc., 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 right? Everything has its risks. I believe in doing things the natural way. You know, I have a farm here. I grow coffee, but I grow coffee which is so different. I grow coffee with no fertilizers, no insecticides, no nothing. It's 100% organic. It's a species that is resistant to all the pests and the plagues that other coffees get. I believe in doing things naturally. In all my life, I try to eat healthy, natural food. And when I breed my animals, I follow the same principles. I will not breed a dog with a known genetic disease to another dog because I know I'll transfer it into my puppies. Right. It's stupidity to do that. But what we do is we underrate the role of the female. And we say, you know, just that's a stunning male. I'll pay a lot of money to put this little crappy female on mine on her, on him on her, and then I'm going to get champion winners, dogs that are fantastic. The same goes when you take the show winners and you put them together. You often get crap puppies because you're not looking at the genetics, you're looking at the conformation of the two. Right. If you could look at the genetics, you could make wonderful recipes. But at this stage, we're not there yet. We don't know enough about genetics.
Gotcha. Roman, I'm finna ask one more question, and then I'm gonna let you get on it, doggone it. So this is your breed, brother. So I'm gonna get out the way. I'm hogging the interview.
No, man, I'm learning, brother. I'm telling you, I told you when this is the man that knows, that has the information about the Boerboel breed, and that will in order to restore these dogs back to their once glory, he knows how to do it. He would know how.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, I know you know some things I probably don't know, but I want to get into this because I see this as a kind of a hot topic in you guys breed is the black dogs. What are your thoughts on the black dogs? How did they come about? Are they a part of the standards? Things like this, Mr. Johan.
Okay, as I said earlier, unfortunately, breed standards are written by breeders. There is no real central reference base, breed identity that says this is in the breed and that is not in the breed. We were talking about genetics earlier, and I said it should be as soon as possible identified what are the true genetic characteristics of a breed. For instance, is your dog, for instance, the Great Dane breed allows small spotting. That's a genetic, that's carried genetically. Does your breed allow it? If it isn't allowed, specify it. The same goes, for instance, with Merle. The same goes with lots of other genetic, not just color, genetic anomalies of the teeth that are identified. Prolapse, which could be genetically linked. Many different factors has to be, as far as possible, identified genetically and described genetically and identified if they are allowed or not. Right. Now, unfortunately, our breed standards didn't keep up with science. And in the case of the Boerboel, the initial breed standards were very clear. They stated very clearly that black is not an allowed color. Why? Was it because of discrimination? Was it because, oh, what the hell, don't they just like black dogs, etc.? No. In those days when the breed standard was written, 1987, there were mostly, there were very few black mastiffs in South Africa. The importing of dogs from Europe hasn't really started in 1987, right? In 1987, most of the dogs that carried the black gene was either Rottweiler, right? Or there were some black shepherds that were already in the country, and Great Danes. Those were the breeds that carried black, right? And the breed never had it. Remember, the guys who wrote this breed standard were the old guys with the gray hair who spent already 20, 30, 40 years with the breed, and they never saw a black dog. They saw black dogs, but then they clearly showed signs of crossbreeding. So it was very specifically excluded in the beginning. And it was maintained for many, many years. Then a very serious commercial breeder, and he's well known who he was and everything, he started experimenting by producing black dogs. Now his initial black Boerboels that he called Boerboels, his initial attempts were failures. They were real serious failures because he used, black Labradors. Labrador was the other dog with the color. And he initially used 3 female dogs that he brought into some small little organization's register under rather dubious circumstances. But in any case, these dogs were known under the kennel name of Muller Poppy, Muller Lady, Muller Dora, I think was the third one. They looked like black Labradors. They were probably black Labradors that were crossed with a Mastiff of some kind, probably a Boerboel, who knows. But suddenly he had these 3 black female dogs that look like labs. The pictures are available on the internet. Anybody that wants to go and research the origins, just go and search. Put it on the internet. Go Muller Poppy, Muller Dora, whatever, you'll find them. Muller Lady is the other one. And you'll see what they look like. And he wasn't successful with mating them with his normal Boerboel males. He sometimes got a black puppy, but man, I evaluated some of those dogs nearly 20 years ago in the United States that he exported to the US, and they were horrible. They were horrible. Really, they were bad. They were not good. Shame. I felt sorry for some of the breeders because these dogs were sold as a rarity and exported to the United States, and big hoo-ha about this rare genetics that was found now. Then what happened is somebody got clever. Somebody realized, but if you want to bring in a color, you can't just use a small number of female dogs. You've got to bring a male dog as well because they both contribute 50%. So the same breeder found a dog at a pet shop, and the dog was known in South Africa as Pet Shop Jim, right? Because he tried to register it. Mother unknown, father unknown, color black, right? It had a mastiffy head, right? And he tried to breed that, and still no success. The dogs did not really look good, right? Yes, the word spread that this guy was getting big bucks for his black puppies. So suddenly, some guys woke up, and we suspect that they brought in a Cane Corsa, black Cane Corsa, into the country because there were no import regulations for that at that stage. You could simply buy it. You could import it through a friend, calling it a crossbreed, whatever. It ends up in your kennel, and you start pumping out. But the trick was also you wouldn't produce good quality dogs if one of the 2 in the mix didn't have a high inbreeding percentage. your coefficient of inbreeding on one of the two partners to bring in this new color must be very highly inbred. So there was one kennel in South Africa that was really known for their high inbreeding coefficient of the dogs. So suddenly females of that kennel started getting used, and allegedly, it was in the days before DNA, parental DNA testing, allegedly using one of these not good looking black males, and suddenly we had monster dogs appearing. Monsters, right? Huge, big black mastiffs. You can go and have a look. There was a guy called Muhsin Ismail in Cape Town who had a magnificent specimen of a black dog in the beginning that he bought from this breeder, right? And they went for top dollar. It was selling for a lot of money, right? Now, unfortunately, rules are made by breeders. And this guy and his co-colored, designer-colored dog breeders started getting a problem that their dogs would not be accepted. They were instructed by the board of the then South African Boerboel Teelers, SABT, to stop with this practice, to stop doing it. I have the minutes of the meeting. I have the instruction given to the then chairman, Johan van Wyk, to go out and tell them to stop doing this. So what did they do? They simply organized and they took over the committee. Very simple, right? You just have your guys elected on the board. Nobody wants to sit on the managing body of a dog breeders organization. You get paid nothing, right? And you have to do a hell of a lot of work. So if you want to make money, you simply take over the organization. You simply take over that committee, and you make sure your breeder desired changes are brought in. So that's the problem with breed standards. They're written by breeders.
Yeah. And so I'm laughing at this because, I'm laughing at this because, like, I cover these dogs so much, and some of the stories sound so similar. Even when you was talking about the labs and the colors and the Rottweilers and the tan points coming into our breeds.
Yeah.
And things. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, and this is the messed up thing. We already have so much trouble just trying to get our breed standards together. Then you got this sucker that want to come in and do the exotic colors on our breeds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
That Merle. Yeah.
I was
And then now, even in the Boerboel, they got miniature Boerboels.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. A well-known breeder here over in Virginia, breeding miniature Boerboels and saying they're authentic. What? Where'd that come from? A toy Boerboel? Really?
Yep. It's a sausage dog with an attitude.
Wow. Yeah, I was on Instagram this morning, and I was looking, and there was a guy that had a big following, and he had some Corsos for $900. I said, "Damn, I might get me one." Throw down the page, they was all Dalmatian colored. I mean, what Great Dane colors. I'm like, oh, come on, man. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Absolutely, because nobody sat down and wrote an identity for your breed.
Right.
Some days somebody will have to dig down deep. Go back to the basics.
Yeah, we got some standards for our breed, but you know, it's kind of sad what's going on with the Corso now because they're debating on some things in the standard. It's in Corso in a real bad spot right now, so I kind of really feel sorry for them. Yeah.
Fortunately, I see some light for the Boerboels. I was approached by one of the major organizations to write them a proposal. And yes, just the fact that they're asking me to do a proposal on this is a new historical milestone. To put together a advisory council of old, call it retired breeders, academics, experts, to start advising on what happened and what should happen and what should not happen. And that's historical. So my hat off to the guy who managed to fight that through. And to just get it in principle, get the seed planted. I'm not saying I will be successful by getting it introduced. Maybe one generation later, somebody will be successful and say, you know what? Johan Swart already said it should be there, and he begged for this. So I'm busy with a very carefully worded, very strategically positioned document to try and get this through a committee that consists of breeders who doesn't want to hear that, who doesn't want anybody telling them, you know, advising them, not telling, advising. Let me be very specific in my language here. Advising them what science says, what history says, what common sense says, you know, and bring that together as a breed, a distinguishable breed, right? Because that's the problem. Our Canary Corsas that you're describing now in where you're living, and the stuff that I'm seeing here in the Boerboel world, we're all creating a pot of stew. There's no more definition. The judges and the people who are evaluating the breeds don't recognize the differences anymore. They don't have the guts to say that dog coming in there looks like a Great Dane. I'm sorry, sir. You know, remove it from the ring, please.
Yeah. So there in the comments, I might have missed when you said this, but they asking me about Dewclaws. Is a Boerboel not to have Dewclaws?
Dewclaws. No. Yeah. Dewclaws is an interesting thing. I see many people now are saying, oh, it's genetically so bad if a dog has Dewclaws, and it's a sign of inbreeding.
In the back. The ones in the back.
And I look, I've been trained. It's better if the dog doesn't have them at the back. In the front, I've always accepted the dog has Dewclaws, and my dogs that get real carcasses and things like that, they hold down food with that. Yes. Those Dewclaws work. Right. Yes, they bloody irritating when the dog jumps up on you and rakes you with a Dewclaw. Right, it's not nice. Right, but they have them and they do have a function. The rear Dewclaws you don't see very often. No. It's not excluded in the Boerboel breed standard. It says that dogs we would prefer them not to have it, but it's not a disqualifying factor. Because why do we prefer dogs not to have it? Is because of injuries. Dogs running in the bush, whatever, they simply step and that Dewclaw gets hooked onto a branch or something, it flips over the other way, and the dog's got a serious injury. There are tendons attached to that. There's muscles attached to that behind Dewclaw. Right. It serves no function and it is a risk. However, something that I do not believe in is that breeders should just randomly take a pair of scissors, and if they see the dog has got Dewclaws when it's a puppy, cut it off. They don't know what they're doing. Right. They might be cutting off tendons, etc., which is important to the future functioning of that hind leg. Right. They don't know what they're doing. So yes, I would prefer that dogs get bred and don't have Dewclaws at the back, but sometimes they do have them. I won't disqualify for it. I'm not saying it's a serious. It's nowhere in science linked to inbreeding or anything like that. It's a genetic factor that hasn't been identified yet. Nobody's defined the sequence that they can do a genetic test and saying this male and that female will have puppies when they are put together. They will have puppies with hind Dewclaws, right? With rear Dewclaws. It's not been defined yet. So I believe it's one of those fashion words at the moment that everybody says, oh, watch out for this, watch out for that. It's a minor issue. There are much more critical issues to look at, such as mobility in general, such as temperament, such as, there are many factors that we've got to look at.
Gotcha. Roman, you got anything, brother?
Yeah, regarding the Dewclaws, Johan, the embark does have the marker for the Dewclaws, for the hind Dewclaws, and then
Okay.
so like on all my dogs it says less likely to have hind Dewclaws, and so I was doing a little dive on that also. Most dogs that have the rear Dewclaws come from mountainous regions like the Alps, what's those
I
dogs?
agree.
Saint Bernards and things like that, and
I agree.
with the Burmese
It was
mountain
probably
dogs and
an
things.
influence. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was probably an influence brought in very early, but we don't even know if maybe the original dogs that came from Isla de Canis and was distributed along the African coast, if they didn't have hind Dewclaws. We don't know.
Okay.
They come from a mountainous region. The Canary Islands are very mountainous islands,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
they could have had. We don't know. Right?
Okay.
For health reasons, I prefer them not to have. Right?
Right.
And it's very good if somebody has found the marker. But
Yeah.
as you say, all they are willing to say, these geneticists are very good marketing guys. Always
Yes.
listen very carefully on what they are actually saying. They are saying they are less likely to have.
Yes.
They're not excluding the possibility. No. So if you suddenly have a litter and they all have hind Dewclaws, they say, oh, no. Okay. All we said is they are less likely to have.
Right. CYA. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So
They were covering
I have
themselves
another
with that one.
question. I got too many questions for it. Hey, so embark testing. What are your thoughts on embark? Embark testing. I wanted to know your thoughts on it. Do you think it's enough specimens of your particular breed to get accurate? Just what are your thoughts on embark testing?
Let me tell you, the import testing would be a good idea. Any testing, any genetic testing would be a good idea if they tested the right things. But import testing and criteria include things like, for instance, at this stage, hip dysplasia certificates are the parents. Now we know the research, modern research, that hip dysplasia, yes, it could have a genetic base, but it's more than likely caused by surfaces that the puppies grow up on and by the nutrition they receive and the level of exercise that they go through. So even if I have two excellent dogs with excellent hip score results and I export that puppy, it's not to say that it's not going to have hip dysplasia on that side, because it's not purely genetically based. What else do they want? They want a parental test to prove that the parents were really on the database that they said they come from. Well, it doesn't mean those dogs are purebred that are on the database, right? It doesn't mean they are good dogs that are on the database. The next thing is they want you to do all blood tests, titer tests, etc. Your dog's got to have injection for rabies and test proper antibodies for rabies. Good. You don't have rabies in the States, do it there, right? It's fine. Keep it there. That's one of the right things to test. But then there are other very antiquated things. I know some countries wouldn't accept dogs, Boerboels from certain, or any dog from certain countries, because they say there's heartworm. Yes, we do have heartworm in Africa, but we've got a remedy for it. Simple. Yes, we do have, there are tests for it. If a dog goes out of the country, they can test if he's got a heartworm or not. And if he hasn't got it, it's fine. To put an outright ban because you say that there's heartworm in that country, no dogs can come in, is stupidity. Follow science. I think in many cases, some of the state veterinarians or the people advising the state on veterinary matters studied a very long time ago. and they in many instances, I think they haven't really kept up with science. Because if I look at the import testing, the export testing from, for instance, a country like Mozambique or a country like South Africa, there are many other things they should be looking at. It's purely administrative hurdles at this stage that has to be overcome, and that makes your dogs very expensive.
Boy, you ain't lying.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
Roman, you got something else, brother?
The again, the U.S. has definitely made it very difficult to import dogs from South Africa, and I personally, I believe it's a money issue, a control issue, where other countries that are frowning upon the U.S. dollar now, they want to back away from the U.S. dollar, and I think that the U.S. is, tweaking and twerking ways to penalize them. You know what I'm saying? On small scales, but effectively. You understand?
Effectively, yes.
It's about money.
Yes.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, you guys don't need to import good dogs from South Africa. The genetics are already in the States.
Right.
Remember when breeders in South Africa, for many years, it's an open fact, if they had a litter of puppies, the best puppies, let's say the best one or two, were kept in the kennel. Sometimes. Most of the times the economy was pinching a bit and they would sell it for dollars. Right? The best market that they could get the highest price for was the US. So really the dogs went to the US and to Europe. The best dogs. The crap, they exported to other African states. Man, they really, if you, it's so well known. For instance, here in Mozambique, you ask a South African breeder for a good dog, you're gonna get the runt of the litter, right? Because the best ones are going to the United States. I see the dogs that are sent to Kenya, that are sent to Tanzania, that are sent to Ethiopia. Oh, man, the quality is shocking. It's shocking.
Well, they've dumped a lot of trash over here too, though.
Oh yes, they did. Now you must imagine how much trash they dumped in the African states if they dumped so much on your side.
Yes, sir. Hey, y'all, let's get the likes up. Please get the likes up, man. It ain't a lot of people that would come and share this type of information. Get the likes up, share it. Make sure afterwards y'all go to Mr. Johan's page, the Boerboel Academy. Subscribe, get the likes up, get them up, get them up, get them up, get them up. Who has been some of the most influential people in this breed?
Well, for me, it has been this guy here, Johan Swart, James Brennan. And I'm grateful for them because I was able to come in at a time where just before James passed, and got to know truth, because these are guys that spoke with integrity and they live by it. And you know what I'm saying? That's something that's extremely important to me. And I'm thankful for that because I mean, you hear a lot of stories, like you said, these guys, and they running with lies, and they selling people garbage dogs and dogs that, the overbite or underbite, the dog's head is just out of place, where all of these things mattered. You know what I'm saying? The proper size head is that he can't function properly if his head is just too big, If his head too big, chances are, the mama had to have a C-section, or it would have killed her and a whole litter of puppies. You know what I'm saying? If that head would have got caught in the birth canal, if these dogs can't function, run properly, if their gait is off, I've seen some look like with their feet look like frog feet. You know what I'm saying? Like the feet of a crocodile or something. You know what I'm saying? The toes spread so far apart like flippers. I'm like, oh my God, what in the world is that? That dog can't function. The dog can't swim. He can't, he get in the water and he just goes straight to the bottom. You got to jump in there and save him. Something's wrong. They selling these monsters with all this loose, drooling, dripping skin everywhere. That dog, or and guys so proud of these dogs with a set of nuts like a bull. It's something wrong with that dog. There's something wrong with
I
that
agree.
dog. It ain't no way in the world his nuts should hang like that.
Yeah.
He can't run. You think if you running your nuts banging from side to side, you know what I'm saying? That's gonna hurt.
Absolutely.
That's
You
a
asked
problem.
earlier. Yes, yes.
That's a
We speak.
cancer in that dog's testicles. You know what I'm saying? And people and they pumping it up. That I guarantee that dog didn't mount that female. You know what I'm saying?
No,
They did an AI with that dog. They had to catch it. They had to catch a semen. Or if
yes,
that dog
absolutely.
if that dog if his penis is hanging so low it's like swinging back and forth. Well, it's supposed to be tightly tucked to his stomach. You know what I'm saying? In order for
Yes.
when he mount that female, for him to penetrate that girl, he got to be hung right. If he hanging too low, he all on the floor down there. You know what I'm saying? He can't produce properly. There's something wrong with that dog.
Brilliant.
If
You
that
asked
girl's
me
back
earlier.
end is too weak, she can't hold him up. You know what I'm saying? It's something wrong with that dog. and if you got to make your dogs have sex, you know what I'm saying? Something wrong. It's supposed
Those
to
are
come
all should all be part of the evaluation. That's what
exactly.
nobody's discussing there is quality, right?
And,
How
and the
do you
guys, they are
actually know
robbing. They
if the
are
quality is right or not? If you don't know
yes,
nothing about a breed and somebody comes to you there in rural Uzbekistan and tells you, man, this is what a Boerboel should look like, you believe that guy.
yeah,
Fortunately, you asked me now who were the influential people in the breed. I don't see myself as so hugely influential. The people who created the breed, they were not who created, who stabilized this breed. They were
yeah,
the important guys in this breed. But they could not get their message across because there was no social media. So I
right,
think what we should rather look at, what are the events that are shaping breeds? And
right.
Great
and one of
point.
the biggest
Point.
events is social media. Social media spreads a lot of untruth, but
Yes,
it's also got the capacity to spread the truth.
that's right.
And it's dependent on us that can evaluate, that have got enough experience to evaluate, to find a way to expose the bullshit,
That's right.
right? And to add a badge to the meritorious information, the correct information that carries merit.
Yeah,
That's
man, you
right.
made a very good point about not who created the breed, because a lot of times the people who created breed, they didn't have it right. They had a lot of work, a lot of stuff out, but the ones
Yeah.
who stabilized the breed is just as important than the
That's right.
creators. Because I know we have a lot of times in different dog breeds, they'll go back and try to resurrect Bingo the Tingo. I'm 20,000 generations ago and act like but it was the ones who really did the cleanup process that just
Right.
really help the breeds. Good point. Thanks for saying that. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, and we've just got to realize that science and social media is going to expose a lot, and we've got to be able to manage that. And I think that's the biggest challenge that lies ahead. I see every day people posting on Facebook dogs as the most magnificent example of the breed that ever existed, and I look at it and I don't even want to answer. In the beginning, I jumped up and down and answered everyone, and I wasted my breath. I really wasted my breath. They're not listening.
Yeah. Yeah. As you learn more, you start to see more, like, wow, what I could believe that I thought that beefed up thing was like the shit. It is
Yeah.
it is. It is shit.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is shit. Yeah, you're correct. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. So
Well, on that topic, I have a
Straight
glass of
trash.
wine, please.
Yes.
I'm just ordering a glass of wine from my wife. So,
Well, we
yeah.
gonna host
No,
it.
I'm raising the next generation Boerboel expert. Jordan, come here. Come here, my boy. Let me introduce you to the world. This is the next owner of Linjo Boerboels. Come here. Come here, come
Okay.
here, come here. Let the world see you. Come here. This is my boy Jordan.
What's
Okay.
up, brother? What's going on?
What's up, brother? Say hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Great.
So
man.
Great.
this is gonna be the expert in the future. Now I
That's
can
what's
go
up.
back.
Awesome.
My son got like that Spider-Man shirt too, brother. Yeah.
Yes, he's at that Spider-Man's age, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
So let me ask you this. I want to go ahead and wrap it up. I don't want to take all your time. I know it's evening time for you. What are some
yes,
of the
please.
biggest myths and misconceptions in your breed? If you could name a few.
Probably the biggest myth is the fact that Boerboels were bred to hunt lions and kill hyenas and
really?
chase away the leopards from the yard and all of that. And that's still the conception. And even if you look on Wikipedia, it tells you, these dogs were bred by the farmers to help them to hunt lions. No, man. You ain't seen a lion yet. All right. Let me tell you, I grew up in the bush. We do have lions. We do have elephants here. The elephant is not scared of a Boerboel, right? Some of the wild animals might run away a little bit, like a hippopotamus. They would like, okay, he's barking at me now. I'll trot away back to the water, right? But the fact that these dogs were bred to protect, yes, but to protect against unreasonable odds was never their job. All right. They could make a hell of a lot of noise when the lions were coming closer, or the herd of buffalo was coming closer, or there was a hippopotamus coming out of the river and wanting to eat in the garden. That they could do. And they could bark at it, and some of the animals would run off. I know about Boerboels that in a pack managed to attack and kill a hyena or something like that, but it is not the norm. Some of my friends in Kenya, for instance, this one specific breeder lives on one of the big wildlife ranches. And he has to close his Boerboel kennels at the top as well. It's got a closed-in roof because the leopards will come at night and jump over the fence and kill the dogs inside the kennel. Those are the facts. There is no dog breed that will stand up to a leopard, right? I have guys coming here to stay at my lodge that professionally catch leopards, because we have a big problem with leopards here in the bush. They do cause lots of damage to the cattle breeders. And what these guys do is they've got a bunch of very big dogs that are specifically trained. When they spot a leopard, they will chase it. They will bark. The leopard will back away until it's in the bush. Then this guy will come up with his dart gun and he will tranquilize it, and they'll put it in a cage and remove it. The role of the dogs has never been to attack or to kill it, right? And it was the same in the old days with the old farmers. They respected nature around them. They lived amongst lions. They lived amongst leopards. They lived amongst all other types of wildlife. It was not a protection like in go out and kill it, right? It was warn me about it and let's manage it. That was the attitude. Now, that's one of the biggest misconceptions about the breed. The second biggest misconception, and that's a modern misconception, is that Boerboels have to be huge. They were not huge dogs. Boerboels were never massive dogs. They were medium-sized, mobile, active dogs. They did not weigh 100 kilos. Never, never, ever. Right. Boerboels were round about a maximum of 70 kilos. If they reached the point of 70 kilos and 70 centimeters in height, they were frowned upon. If they started going over that level, they were frowned upon and they were said, no, 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 no. But then the market that pays the dollars wanted big dogs because, man, I am a man of stature if I've got a mean mother of a dog. Right. I need to be able to kill anything in my way. So there's a market for these huge monstrosities. And that changed the breed and the breed standard, because the standards are written by breeders and breeders are driven by demand.
Gotcha.
So I think those are the two that I want to highlight. It's just size and the role and the function.
Gotcha.
I watched the video. I watched the video, Johan, of in South Africa where Boerboels were used in Kruger to track poultries, rhino poultries,
they're very good at that. Yes.
Elephant poultries.
Yeah,
I thought that was
very good
awesome.
at that. Yeah, no, they are used all the time. We do use the dogs. We use the dogs. These are working dogs. They're not working for titles, but they in the bush. They are used to go and look where are the cattle. They run with the farmers nowadays. Don't ride horses anymore. They've got quad bikes, but they'll follow the quad bike and run with it through the mountain and go and help to collect the cattle and bring it in. I've got a friend, also a Boerboel breeder, retired Boerboel breeder. She used to breed excellent Boerboels, Gretchen Boerboels. A lady called Marita Petersen. She's now retired. She's, I can't say Marita is old. She'll kill me for that. She's the same age as me. But Marita, on her sheep farm, she still uses her Boerboels. Right? Her Boerboels help her to herd the sheep in. If there's a jackal at night, the Boerboels will start going crazy, and she'll know there's something with the sheep, and she'll go out and see what it is. Right? If she releases them, they'll kill a jackal with ease, but they have to catch a jackal. So her dogs have to be mobile. They have to be able to stay up with a flock of sheep all day. So they have to be mobile. They have to be functional. If the dog is not functional, it doesn't belong there.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, well, I'm gonna go ahead and end this right now, because man, I definitely want to have you back. I'm really looking for somebody that can talk about functionalities in the dogs. I had a notable Corso breeder said, I want to hear you get more people, teach people about dogs in general. So if you can help me with that, I know somebody can help me with that. It would be a pleasure to have you back. Let's tell everybody how to get in touch with you and maybe retouch on some of your book resources and YouTube once again.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Joe. I really appreciate it. My job and the way that I see my role is purely as a trainer. I'm here to facilitate knowledge. If I can help people to understand the breed, I am helping the breed. I'm not helping myself. I haven't bred a puppy in years. Right. I'm sharing what I know and what science teaches me and what logic teaches me, not what I want to sell. And I think that's where the difference lies.
Right on, right on.
Awesome.
Roman, closing remarks, benediction, please.
Well, Johan, I really appreciate you taking the time out with us to help with this and bringing some clarity to a lot of things about the Boerboel breed. One question that I have is we realize that we're at a crisis in the Boerboel breed, and we haven't gone too far for it to be. I don't think it's gone too far to be turned around. But we need to. There needs to be awareness brought to it, and that's what we're doing. There are some breeders here in the U.S. have become preservationist breeders who want to preserve this breed and maintain the true authenticity of the breed. I'm one of them. How do you see? What can we do to turn it around? What should we do to turn it around? And how do you? What do you recommend as far as breeders coming together? because obviously one breeder can't do it. But how do you recommend we come together in order to save the breed here in the U.S.?
As I said, one of the, and as a final summing up as well, I think one of the highlights that has happened lately is the suggestion, the seed that was planted, that an advisory council should be formed. That should have means, that should be able to tell an individual you're going wrong, right? And have authority to do that, not in a nasty way, not to be prescriptive, but advisory. And advisory is like taking a torch and showing the road, right? Yeah. Lighting up the way. That's what I see we should do. To simply put a fence on both sides and say, thou shalt not cross this fence, is not going to work. No, we must light the way. Yeah. Yeah. And if we don't light the way, nobody knows where to go. So as a summary, I'm here, I'm available, and let's maybe start working wider than just Southern Africa in getting such an advisory council together and getting more organizations to buy into such a council where you can pose questions to and say, advise us on this. We are thinking of amending our breed standard, or we have this challenge amongst our dogs. Where does it come from? How do we address it? And let's see if that can't be the lantern that just lights up the road ahead.
Man, good point, man. And what you said is a lot of it has to do with civility. You know, a lot of times I see in these breeds, being that I cover a lot of breeds, is people always want to bring in personal things when it comes to business, the business of dogs. That's one thing I hate to hear. Well, personally, he did this, he did it, you know, his wife this, and blah, blah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's about these dogs.
I walk away from that immediately.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
it's about the breed. Yeah, it's about the breed for me. I love this dog, man. It's just an amazing breed, and I tell people that all the time. Every chance I can talk to individuals that's not familiar, and just how beautiful the temperament of a true Boerboel is, you know, and it'll make you fall in love with them. You know, it's like, what and where have I been? Where have these dogs been all my life? You know what I'm saying? It's like,
right.
Yeah.
I thoroughly been enjoying learning about it. Okay, guys. Well, I guess we'll call this a wrap.
It's a wrap, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in. When you the guys that catch the replay, still same rules apply. Like, share it, go support Johan's books, his YouTube channel. Go support our brother Roman, his Facebook, what his program and everything he's doing is very impressive. Till the next time, we'll see y'all later.
Peace.
Thank you.